I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to speak to you today. If you could just give us a brief introduction and tell us a bit about your film.
Yeah, so my name is James Krishna Floyd, and I've written and co-directed a film called Unicorns. Unicorns is a cross-cultural romance about a British Indian drag queen who falls in love with a straight, white, single dad from Essex. It's my filmmaking debut. It's a very personal film to me. It's a very London film. A lot of it is set in London. And it really kind of like challenges this idea that identity is binary and simple. And it really talks about this notion that identity can be fluid in every sense, whether it be sexuality, whether it be gender, whether it be race. And that, mainstream society tries to lump labels on all of us, and hopefully we can try and smash through those labels and just kind of be wonderfully confusing and complex.
And you're saying there that it's a very personal film. Can you tell us a bit about the backstory to it? What inspired the story, and why was this the story you wanted to put on the big screen for your debut?
Yeah, so for me, it was very important that my filmmaking debut was personal, and for me, my experiences with many parts of my identity have been very fluid, whether it be race, whether it be sexuality, whether it be class. I've never really felt like one thing. And I've always felt like mainstream culture is trying to pin me into like that category. And so I wanted a film to celebrate those feelings that I have, but also challenge them and really provide questions, like, do identity labels really exist? Do they matter? And there's a reason why I made it a romance, because ultimately I think when you fall in love with someone, you have no choice in that matter. It just happens. And I think it's very important to try and let it be and not feel like mainstream society is trying to force us to make love to someone or to fall in love with someone, because that's what they're telling us to do. It's a tough thing to do, to challenge that, and I think the world is in an interesting place now where I think there's a whole new generation coming through that agree with me and many other people, that ultimately these things should matter. Human beings, we're not tins of food, like we're very complex, fluid beings that are continuously changing over a period of time. We should embrace that.
And tell us about your cast. How did you choose them, and how did you work with them to achieve your vision?
Yeah, so we have an amazing cast. Our two lead actors are Ben Hardy and Jason Patel. Ben Hardy, obviously very well known for Bohemian Rhapsody and X-Men, and this is him like you've never seen him before. And Jason Patel, this is his first film. Jason is an incredible queer South Asian performer. He's an R&B artist and a dancer, and in this film he plays what's called a realism drag queen. So in South Asian culture we've had realism drag for a long, long time. It's very different to the American style of drag, which is quite kind of big and sort of expressive. Realism drag is very subtle or naturalistic, and Jason plays a character called Aisha Ashik, and that character is basically an identity-free real-life unicorn. And but they fall in love with someone who is straight and white and working class and from a different side of the tracks. And Jason is phenomenal in the film. He does all of his singing, his dancing in it, and it's a very colourful performance. So the chemistry between Jason and Ben is unreal, and in all romances you need that. So I hope audiences can really enjoy that.
And in terms of the look and feel of the film, were you taking cues from other, filmmakers or films that you'd seen? And what might have been some of the highlights and challenges along the shoot?
Yeah, the influences of this film are very, very wide. It's set in a community that we've never actually seen in cinema before, certainly not in dramatic feature film cinema. So our influences are kind of everything, from a lot of the really interesting, gritty yet poetic cinema of Jacques Audiard, even towards some of the old school Technicolor musicals, that are very inspiring to me. I think it's hard to pin down one thing, but I would say really the world itself, the Gaysian world that it's set within, is what has inspired me for this film. That's the reason why the movie's been made. Because Asifa Lahore, who's a very well-known Gaysian figure, and she was, at the time that I met her 7 years ago, was the UK's only out and first out UK Muslim drag queen. Her life is just full of colour and wildness and madness and drama and comedy, and a lot of that is in the film. So the inspiration comes more from the real people that it's based on. But the shoot itself was I wouldn't say it was as challenging as anything else I've done. I've done a lot of things that are a lot harder. Myself and Sally El Hosseini, who I co-directed with, we had a lot of creative control over this, and it wasn't a huge movie in terms of budget, but we felt like we were really expressing ourselves creatively on this. And it's the only hard thing really, I guess, was getting it made. It took 7 years, but I think now the world is ready for a film like this, and everyone who's seen it so far, luckily, has really liked it, and they feel like it's a very current film, because it directly attacks this notion that identity is binary, which for me it never has been, and I think there's millions of people in the world who agree with me.
And finally, what do you hope people take away, and what does it mean to you to have it here at the London Film Festival? Because it does feel like an interesting time, whether you're looking at British Asian cinema specifically, but also I think for identity in this country at the moment with the government that we have right now, and it does seem to be like they're sowing division rather than bringing us together. It seems more important now than ever to have films like this.
I agree. I mean, I think, look, I don't know if films can change culture en masse, but I do think films can provide questions to audiences, maybe, and show, I think, a world and characters that the average Joe and Josephine haven't seen and may never see in their real lives. And I think you're right. Like, I think ultimately this film has a relevance and it has an importance to London in particular, but I think the world. There's a whole new generation that's come through that has been allowed to shout about identity fluidity. And I think films like Unicorns really serve that audience, and they're just very true to my experience and everyone else who's similar to me.
I'm out of time, but thank you so much for sharing all of that, and really enjoy presenting your film at the festival. Thanks so much. Great to chat to you. Thank you.